Ja, herzlich willkommen hier heute zum Abend zu Ehren Israels. Ich freue mich über jeden Einzelnen, der sich heute Abend hier
Welcome to the 8th International March of Life Conference. I'm so happy that each of you are here, and we have a very wonderful program for tonight, and I'm so looking forward to it. And we're also looking forward to hearing from you where you are viewing tonight, because we have guests from all different nations here tonight in our hall, but also online. So please use the comments function or on Facebook where you are. Please write us that you are from this place. Please also write why you support Israel, and also, of course, how you are connected to the March of Life. And connection is a great word, because the connection to this night, at least the moderation, I am moderating tonight with Jonathan Mal, and he is a historiker, and maybe you can come here, Yoni. I just introduced you as a historic. Kirk, could you please tell us about this evening? Yeah, I completed my master in Tübingen in history, and I'm currently working in the House of History in Stuttgart. It's a museum, and I'm looking forward to sharing a 5-minute summary of the Warsaw Uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto. Yes, it is part of our program, because we, as March of Life, call every year around the event of Yom HaShoah. This is the Jewish Day of Remembrance of the Holocaust, and the International Day of Remembrance is on the 27th of January every year worldwide. And the Jewish people celebrate this or commemorate this day in spring, in April. That's where Yom HaShoah starts, and in this year, this is also commemorating on the same day the uprising in the Warsaw Ghetto. And maybe you could also bring our guests into the topic with you.
Ja, genau, wollte ich eben gerade fragen.
So I'm going to do my best to summarize this in 5 minutes. I don't want to say too much about the content of the event, but I would like to talk about its meaning. Because the uprising in the ghetto can be symbolic for the resistance to National Socialism. And it's also symbolic for Israel, and it has a very important role, because the people, they were the victim in 1948. They could show through this uprising that we are a true nation. We're not just victims. We also have our own state now. And it also stands for confidence, even if the Warsaw Uprising ended with lots of blood and almost nobody survived. But the few that survived, in the founding time of Israel, they had a very important role with their voices and with their story. Yeah, that's what I like to say about this. Yes, something very moving on this evening is that we also have Rudi Lehavi and his mother can tell us about the Warsaw Ghetto, not personally, because she's unfortunately already passed away, but her son will tell us about the story, her very special story tonight. But what else can we look forward to tonight? So I'm really looking forward to Havel. He's, you might know him from his documentary, The Least Jewish Jew. And so his story is this. He thought he would make a computer game with his friend about National Socialism, and they wanted to change the story. They wanted you to have the option in the game to change how you would act and maybe make a good decision. And so he started, in this way, he started to work on his own family story. story. And he came upon trauma in his life and found something that he really didn't know before in his life. And through different situations he experienced also personally with his father, suddenly things turned for the better. And I watched this documentary a few weeks ago, and it really is very moving, and it goes very deep, especially because the reaction of his German friends is different. While he himself was taking more time to think about the story, it's made a blockade in the story for his friends. And that's why it's so important that we look at this story with March of Life, and that we as perpetrators, we take time to think about this and look at the truth. Yeah, of course. And this movie also plays into the reality that we shouldn't stop looking to the past, but that we need to continue. And for many who maybe are working through their family story for the very first time, that's what March of Life stands for, that we don't have a distance culture of remembering, but that we are personally touched by this, and out of this, that we say we're going to stand up against anti-Semitism. We'll stand up against hatred of the Jewish people, and we also stand together with Israel. And many people can't manage to do this. They say, yeah, of course, I agree that, yeah, I stand with Israel, or I'm not anti-Semitic, but I can't agree with the state of Israel. And we'd like to call all of you watching tonight, please do not stay silent, but do a March of Life. Plan a March of Life in your city. We will hear a lot about this tonight, and it's not too late to prepare a March of Life for Yom HaShoah. And I have to say, sometimes it just seems like it's such a big thing to plan and it's difficult. Hey, we would love to support you and to help you to organize a March of Life. And it doesn't mean that you have to get a lot of people together, but it means that we set that we make a stand with however many people we can bring together. And the most important thing is that we're there, that we're together, that we open our mouths, and that there in our everyday life, we can change things. And I think that is so important and critical. Yeah, and we also have the March of the Nations. And how does the March of to lift this voice in a very practical way and to do it in a visible way. And they say, we're going to Israel. We in our nation, we stand on the side of Israel. We stand against anti-Semitism. And then they travel to Israel, and there we are going to do a march in Jerusalem. And then we will go into many different cities in Israel where we have a personal encounter with many different people. And we will say very clearly, we don't just stand for our own nation, but we also go to Israel to say that we stand on the side of Israel and also that we are friends of Israel. And I believe this is a very important sign. And maybe at this place, we can see a very moving video. Maybe we can watch this, and I think it gives a good impression what.
Komm zum Marsch der Nationen 2023, zum 75. Jahrestag des Staates Israel. Vom Holocaust zu neuem Leben. Gemeinsam mit Tausenden aus allen Nationen werden wir durch Jerusalem ziehen und damit sagen, Israel, du bist nicht allein. Bei der Konferenz in Jerusalem werden wir gemeinsam an das Herz Gottes kommen. Mit dabei sind international bekannte Sprecher und Künstler wie Jobst Bittner, Heidi Baker, Paul Wilbur, Johannes Gerloff, YC Dance und viele weitere. Mit der Botschaft von Freundschaft und der Stimme der Versöhnung gehen wir in den Städten Israels auf die Straßen. Wir begegnen Holocaust-Überlebenden und ihren Familien und bauen persönliche Beziehungen zu Menschen auf. In Metula, Tiberias, Zikron Jakov und anderen Städten. Im Norden, im Zentrum und im Süden Israels. Durch den großen Marsch in Jerusalem, gemeinsam mit Israelis aus dem ganzen Land und offiziellen Vertretern wie dem Vorsitzenden der Jewish Agency, Doron Almog, und Knesset-Abgeordneten, wird unsere Freundschaft zu Israel für alle sichtbar. Komm im Mai 2023 zum Marsch der Nationen, um Israel zu segnen und Teil dieses lebensverändernden Ereignisses zu sein. Melde dich jetzt an unter www.marchofthenations.com.
Ja, und während sich die Halle im Hintergrund schon füllt, habt ihr direkt einen Einblick bekommen, was der March of the Nations ist. Und ich möchte euch ermutigen, wenn diese
So I would like to encourage you, when this evening is over, please stay here. You do not want to miss anything from this night. And when this evening is over, then go to our website, www. Because like we just said, in this way we can show that we stand in friendship to Israel. Yeah, you just said that our hall is being filled, and I just had an aha moment, I have to say, when I walked in, maybe 45 minutes ago. I was working on my text, and I walked in, and also here in our cafe, and I thought, oh, there are so many people here. And I didn't really realize it anymore, how many people come together. And then I realized this is the 8th International March of Life Conference, and there's so many supporters and people who are interested in it, and I was just astounded. And yeah, and I think what we have to say about this is March of Life is, we have been here together for the whole weekend, and it has to do with encouragement of planning as many marches on Yom HaShoah as possible, not out of principle, but because it is critical that we stand on the side of Israel. And maybe we can just jump into the evening and talk about what's going to come and happen tonight. I'd like to welcome everyone who just started viewing with us. Welcome that you're here. And please share the stream with your friends. Send it per WhatsApp, per Instagram, per Facebook, however you want. Do it however you want. Share with your friends and let them participate on this night to honor Israel. We are so looking forward to this evening. And like we said, we're looking forward to Yudi Haladi, who will share the story of his mother. We're looking forward to hearing from the founder of March of Life, Jobst Bittner. We're looking forward to Andre Röhl and Shai Terry, who will have musical numbers for us and will fill our hall with the beautiful music and also your living room at home. And we're so looking forward to the special guests here from Israel. Yeah, and also many dances that will come during the night from YC Dance. And we also have Josh Reichstein here tonight, an MK member of Knesset. His name is Moshe Turpaz. He also will speak this evening, and I'm so looking forward to hearing him. So, Yoni, what are you looking forward to besides what you will share with us? Well, I mentioned this before. I'm so looking forward to Yaharel because I've seen his documentary.
Jetzt muss ich dich leider unterbrechen. Im Hintergrund
Okay, I have to cut you off. We're starting now. I wish you all lots of fun, and I hope to see you at March of the Nations.
שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, שלא אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לכלותנו, עמד עלינו לכלותנו. והיא שעמדה לאבותינו, והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, עמד עלינו לכלותנו,
So a very warm welcome to this evening here at the March of Life conference and for the Night to Honor Israel on occasion of 75 years of the foundation of the State of Israel. And we just heard the song V'yishe'amda, and this speaks about the fact that the enemies wanted to destroy the people of Israel, but the Almighty intervened. And 75 years ago, on the 14th of May, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the State of Israel from the ashes of the Holocaust, only 3 years after the Shoah was ended, the greatest disaster in the history of Israel. It has become the greatest miracle in modern times. And this is what we are celebrating this year, and we're celebrating it today. And we do it in the framework of the March of Life conference. We've been spending time together with 120 representatives from 17 nations since Friday evening. And tonight is our great evening to celebrate. First of all, a guest of honor, Moshe Turpaz, member of Knesset. A big warm welcome to him. And we are also very happy to have Josh Reinstein with us, president of the Knesset Christian Ally Caucus. Welcome to him. Great to have you. And also, I am especially happy to have Dr. Boris Zabarko with us. He is initially from Kiev. He's a historian and Holocaust survivor. Please, a warm hand to him as well. He's a very good friend of March of Life. And I'm also very happy to have Stella Sirkin with us. She is representative of Karen Hayesod in southern Germany. And later we have Udi Lehavi with us, president and representative of Karen Hayesod. And we have Rita Salzman here, representative of the Jewish community in Reutlingen, together with some friends of the Jewish community. We are so happy to have you. And we also have the directors and organizers of March of Life here. Among others, Igal Evan-Ziv, he is the Israeli director. He has come especially. And we have directors from Austria, France, Greece, Switzerland, Paraguay, Greece, Peru, and we've got people from the UK, Odessa, Kiev, Berdichev, and we've got people from the UK, Northern Ireland, England, Wales. Give them a big hand of applause because they are the ones who are raising their voices. And I'm also very happy to be able to welcome Jobst Bittner to the stage. He's founder and visionary of March of Life, and he'll give us an introduction to the evening. A big warm welcome to you from my part as well. It's my great joy to be with you here tonight, the evening to honor Israel. We've been doing quite some hard work here on the conference. We've been planning, working ahead how to continue in the coming years. And it's so important to raise our voices, to stand with Israel, for Israel. And this is what we're going to do. And at this time, it's more important than ever. So it's a great joy to be able to be together here. And so, my friends, we are living in times that seem quite different compared to a few years ago. So we are seeing a time of shaking. This is what the Bible says about it. These are times when violence is exploding again. There is division. Political rifts are opening up. When we look to the Ukraine, maybe, we actually find new reports over and over again, and they shake us to the core, and we don't even know what to read in the media anymore. And the one thing is the Ukraine, the other thing is other nations. We look to South America because we have representatives of so many different nations here. And sometimes you feel like it's a wave here. It's an escalation that we see, escalation of violence. And these news are not terribly good news. But the question is, what do you do about this? And this is something I thought about, and maybe this might be an introduction that doesn't seem so fitting for an evening like this, but maybe it does after all. Because scientists and scholars say there are different levels to the spiral of escalation, of a hardening of hearts, polarization, and then they've got 8 or 9 stages, and the worst is actually the fact that people accept one's own destruction if you can only destroy your opponent with you. So what do you do, and what are the answers you could possibly find? How can we de-escalate? And then I got stuck at a point when I was looking for answers. If you see level 7 to 9, there it says it needs an external intervention by a higher instance. And that brings me to a verse that is so fitting for this evening, taken from Psalm 122, verses 6 to 9. And there it says, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And those who love you, may they prosper, and let there be peace within your walls, and let there be security within your citadels. For the sake of my family and friends, I will say, peace be within you." And suddenly you see there is a connection between Jerusalem and Israel, and the peace of Jerusalem, the peace of Israel, and also the peace of the world. And so we were thinking about it, this conference, what is the special calling, the fact that Israel is chosen to be a light for the nations? And we talked about the founding of the State of Israel, which is, in my opinion, is the greatest miracle of our time. 1948, 3 years after the end of the Shoah, that's when the nation was born, and promises millennia old came to pass before our very own eyes. And we know the word also in Genesis 12, verse 3, "In you all nations shall be blessed." And sometimes you could describe it like this is the heartbeat of the nations. It is seen in Jerusalem and in Israel. And it's also called the city of peace, Jerusalem, city of peace. And yet it sees so little peace in our days. And it seems to be a very simple principle. A body can only be healed when the heart is well and whole. And that's why it's so important at this time to honor Israel and to bless it. And to pray for peace in Jerusalem, to pray for peace in Israel, and to bless. And at the same time to know we are blessed through Israel. And through Jerusalem, and through the fact that Jerusalem is chosen. And so this is how we want to stand together. And this 75th anniversary is not just a simple anniversary like we have so many other birthdays and anniversaries, but it is the remembrance of the fact that the Lord has fulfilled his promises before our eyes and is continuing to do so. And so we are very grateful to be able to stand here together and to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to thank him, and together with our friends of Israel, to enjoy this beautiful, special evening. And I wish all of you God's blessing. Thank you very much.
O daughters of Zion, O Abraham's sons, hear the words of your father, hear his promise of love. I will make you a blessing, so count the stars if you can. You will be a great nation. I will give you this land. I will bring you back home. I'll bring you back home, all my children. You will no longer roam, lost and alone in the night. There is nothing on earth that could take you away. Once I carry you under my wings, I will bring you all back home again. Though you've wandered like strangers to the ends of the earth, I will send you a savior. I will finish my work. You have no other shepherd. You have no other Lord. Green pastures are waiting in Zion once more. I will bring you back home. I bring you back home, oh my children. You will no longer roam, lost and alone in the night. There is nothing on earth that could take you away. Once I gather you under my wings, I will bring you all back home. So we pray for the peace, but look to the east for the sun rises sudden and fierce. Every prophet and priest, king in that city will look on the one they have pierced. We will mourn for the one we have pierced. But don't fear, oh my daughters, sons of Abraham. I will wash you with water. I will offer the lamb. Though your sins were like scarlet, they'll be whiter than snow. I have always been with you. I will never let go. I will bring you back home. I bring you back home, oh my children. You will no longer roam, lost and alone in the night. There is nothing on earth that could take you away. I will gather you under my wings. I will bring you all back home. Oh, I will bring you all back home again. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
So before we continue in the program, I still need to welcome a few more people. I forgot to welcome Shai Terry and Andre Rowe. We are looking forward to their performance. Thank you so much for coming. A big warm welcome to you. And I'm also very happy to have Yair Harel with us of the movie Tacheles at Last. I'm looking forward to our talk afterwards. And by now we've got Uri Lehavi here. Great to have you here. You just took Reuven Rivlin to the airport. So Great, thank you for coming and being with us. And now we'll see a dance to a song in Psalm 27 that gives thanks for the presence of God. But this dance is called Jacob's Dream. And it's about the dream that Jacob had, because Jacob is the one who's later called Israel, and it is the dance team YC Dance performing it.
One thing I ask of you. One thing I seek, that I may dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to gaze on your beauty, Lord, and seek you in your temple, Lord. One thing I ask of you. One thing I seek, to gaze on your beauty, Lord, and seek you in your temple, Lord, to gaze on your beauty, Lord, and seek you in your temple,
Thank you so much, YC Dance. And now I am really happy to be able to welcome Josh Reinstein with us. He's president of the Israel Allies Foundation and president of the Knesset Israel Allies Caucus, and he's been a friend of many years to us, and we've been together on so many marches of life. He has kept connecting us to so many people in the Knesset, and we are very, very grateful for our friendship. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Heinz, for that warm introduction. It's great to be here with you this evening tonight, and a special thank you to Jobst and Charlotte. It's better seeing you in Israel, but I'll take what I can get. It's really an honor for me to be here, but at the same time, it's hard to be in Germany. My grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and as I walk the streets of Germany, no matter what city I'm in, whether it be Berlin or Tübingen or Stuttgart, I always think, who lived in this house? Where was the Jewish community? What did they do during this time? We went yesterday to the Holocaust Museum that you guys created, and to see the square, what it looked like during the time of the Holocaust, is a scary thing. As a child, I used to say, how is this possible that something like this could actually happen? But unfortunately today, I see that it's very easy to happen. It's something that could happen at any time. In fact, today we're seeing anti-Semitism rise like never before. At the beginning, they tried to mask it and they called it anti-Zionism. They said, no, we're not anti-Semites. God forbid. We're anti-Zionists. But it was the same anti-Semitism of the 1930s. They just changed the word Jew to Israel. They said, don't buy from the Jews in 1930. Now they say, don't buy from Israel. Don't buy from the Israelis. They say, don't let Jewish professors in your universities. Now they say, don't let Israeli professors in your universities. And it goes well beyond. They said that the Jewish people were taking the blood of Christian children and using it for matzah. Today they say the Jewish people are poisoning, Israeli people are poisoning Israeli Palestinian children. They said that we were the wandering Jews, that we came from Israel to infest Europe. Now they're saying that we came from Europe to infest Israel. Like there's any people in the world that has more claim to a country than the Jewish people has to the land of Israel. And so we see this happening again. In fact, at the museum yesterday, they showed how in the math books, at the time of the Nazis, they were showing that there's this many people, these many Jews in your community, and you need this many bombs to kill each people. How many bombs do you need to kill Jews? Those math problems are in the Palestinian textbooks today, the same ones. Yesterday, we had a Palestinian driver drive into a group of people, 7 people. 2 were killed, a 6-year-old boy and a 20-year-old adult. Last Friday, a gunman opened fire on a people leaving a synagogue, killed 7. Those people are going to be paid. Their families will be paid for the rest of their lives for killing Jews. Do you know who's paying them? You. You're paying them. The European Union. Your tax dollars are going to pay those people for the rest of their lives because they killed Jews. But this time around, there's 2 main differences. First, we have Israel, and it's a strong country. We have our own government. We have one of the members of Knesset with us today, Moshe Turpaz. Please give him a round of applause. An amazing leader in Israel. We have a strong military. We have democracy and law and justice and a people, a community willing to fight for what's right, a God-fearing community. And also the second big difference is we have you. This time, we're not alone. This time, we're not on our own. And a lot of times I go to different events and people say, well, what can we do? What can we do to help? And today I actually have an answer. You can come in May and march through the streets of Jerusalem and celebrate Israel's birthday. You can come and bring 10 friends each. Bring 10 friends each. And have 4, I'm not joking. Start now. Get 4,000 people out to the streets of Jerusalem saying, we're with you. We love you. Don't believe what you hear in the media. We're here to celebrate Israel's 75th birthday too. That's what you can do. As Jews and Christians, we need to come together because no other people believe in our values as we do. It's the source of our strength, the reason for our success and prosperity, and the foundation of the Judeo-Christian civilization that we share. We must only come together to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our might, as we are commanded to do, and we shall prevail. And Christians and Jews will share in God's blessings together. Thank you again for having me. And my blessing to you tonight is this year in Jerusalem. Thank you.
Vielen Dank, Josh.
Thank you so much, Josh. And maybe just one note why we laughed, because you mentioned 10 people, and this afternoon we spoke to the March of Life directors here, and we told them, each of you bring 10 people. So you confirmed what we're saying. We hadn't talked about this with you, but that's why we laughed. You know, it's really true. Let everyone bring 10 people to the march. That's just fact, okay? But now it's a great honor for me to welcome Moshe Turpaz here, and let me present him. He grew up in Haifa and Jerusalem, but also he spent part of his childhood in the United Kingdom, where his family is from, and well, before that from Poland. And Turpaz studied Jewish thought and Torah, and did his master's studies in the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and he was a school director for many years, and from 2012 and 2017 he was director of education in Jerusalem, and 2019 he was part of Yesh Atid, and since that time he's been member of Knesset. He's married and has 5 children, and it's a great honor to have him with us tonight. Please give him a very warm welcome.
Good evening to all the friends of Israel here tonight. Great to be with you. Thank you, Josh Reinstein, Director of Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, for that kind introduction and for all you're doing here and in Israel. It is my honor to join you at tonight's program. Heinz Ross and Jobst and Charlotte Bittner, thank you very much for welcoming me from Israel and for your leadership of this incredible organization. Thank you, Yigal Evan-Ziv, for your preparation. Thank you, Udi. Thank you, Stella, and all the friends here. It's my privilege. Many of my colleagues and friends, current and former MKs from the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, have had the privilege of attending March of Life events throughout Europe and have shared with me about their experiences. I have also had the privilege to visit the March of Life Museum yesterday, as Josh was saying, so that I can have a better understanding of your mission and activities. These experiences have moved me deeply. Your commitment to ensure that the memory of the Holocaust is not forgotten is something very important to me as an Israeli Knesset member and personally as a Jew. Now, just imagine, 102 years ago, my grandfather, Moshe Yehuda, who I'm called on his name, went out in a cold evening in Warsaw when suddenly he sees a Polish soldier beating up, hitting an old Jewish person, bearded, with the clothes and everything. And he stands there. He was I'm much taller than he was, so I'm told that I never met him. And he looks, and he stands, and he has this dilemma. Just imagine, really interrupt, really fight for the Jew, or maybe he should go on his way, like many did. And he made the decision 102 years ago. אני barged in, like Moshe Rabbeinu, 3,300 years before him. And he beat the Polish soldier. And then he saved the Jew, and he had to run for his life. So he ran through Germany, came to England, met my grandmother, built a family, and that's mainly the reason I'm here today, because all the rest of the family who were left in Warsaw, in Poland, were killed during the Holocaust. This is my personal Moshe Yehuda, Moshe Rabbeinu story of how I am here today. When we talk about the Holocaust commemoration, it is important we not only mourn the deaths of those million killed, but we use their suffering as a reminder that we must do better. That attacks against the Jews throughout the 1940s happened because the majority of observers were silent. They were too afraid to speak up for the truth, for morality, and for justice. Today we must speak up wherever and whenever and wherever we see anti-Semitism, whether that comes in form of persecution against Jewish people or against the one and only Jewish state. Maybe let's do something together. If you may, for a few seconds, close your eyes for a second, like I'm doing, okay? And imagine yourself in Warsaw 102 years ago, like my grandfather, Moshe Yehuda. You know, it's quite cold outside with your jacket, and suddenly you see the same picture of the soldier, the Polish soldier, and he's beating up someone. And you move a few steps ahead, and you see this is an old Jew. Now, again, with your mind, 3,300 years ago, join Moshe Rabbeinu. More or less the same age, 20-something maybe. He's walking in the streets of some city in Egypt, and he sees an Egyptian soldier. And he's beating up who? A Jewish person. Open your eyes now. Would we stand there? Would we be the people we're talking about that would step in, fight, rescue the Jew, but also maybe give our lives for that? That's the story. That's the thing we're talking about these days. The fact that you have gathered representatives from over 15, I think 17 nations in tonight's program to dream together about a better future without anti-Semitism and without Jew hatred is a wonderful accomplishment. You are able to unite individual leaders and to turn them into a broad movement which has tremendous power to stem the tide of anti-Semitism and to make a true impact on the future. As a member of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, it is important for me to strengthen the relationship between the Knesset and Christian leaders around the world. And that is what brings me here tonight. You are all heroic leaders, and I came from Israel to send you my blessings and gratitude to all of that you do for the Jewish people and our homeland. I want a set of applause for you. So let's give a set of applause. Since time of Abraham, the Jewish people have been committed to living a life of charity and justice in the land which God designated to them, to be a light unto the nations and make an impact on the greater world. And since day one, they have been enemies of the Jewish people who have tried to erase our nation, to deny our right to exist and our right to a homeland, and to spread hatred and lies about us. Today, with the flourishing and modern state of Israel, we have shown that we still heed to the vision of our forefathers. We have created the only democracy in the Middle East, a shining light in a very dark region. We have used this blessing not only to develop the homeland of the Jewish people, but also a heaven of safety for the minorities who live among us. I want to share a moment of my own with you. I served as a commander in the Israeli IDF. I was a battalion commander of paratroopers, and we were fighting in the Gaza Strip. And this is night, and we're fighting from terrorists' house one to another. And I'm with my soldiers, about 500 of them, and suddenly I see a missile just above my head. And it's shot from somewhere in the Gaza Strip, and there's another one, and it's hitting somewhere, it's landing somewhere in Israel, killing women, children, innocent people who all they did is be Jews and live in Israel. That's our story. And I remember saying to myself, recognizing this is why I'm putting my life at risk. This is why I'm fighting. I'm fighting for our people. Now, as a matter of fact, that missile hit a Bedouin village that night, and a Bedouin family was killed. But it doesn't make any difference because these are human beings living between us. They're under our responsibility. We mourn the same for each person that is killed, Jew, Arab, or other. And that was my story. On that night, I told my soldiers, listen, this is why we are here, to save lives of innocent people. This is why we are rescuing people. This is why we are putting our lives. At that moment, I realized that we can now truly say, never again, with confidence, we will never allow the blood of the Jewish people to flow freely. We will protect our homeland with all our might, but we cannot do this alone. We can only be successful if we have the true partnership of the international community. I sincerely thank the March of Life organization for helping to cultivate the global voice against anti-Semitism. I know that you make extensive efforts to both honor survivors and share their experiences at your evening. This is more important than ever as the numbers of Holocaust survivors continues to decrease. We must pay careful attention to these stories and testimonies and pledge to internalize the message, to carry on the legacies of bravery, of justice, and of commitment to stand by the Jewish people. As an MK in the Yesh Atid party, we actually this year added a huge budget to Israeli survivors, Holocaust survivors, in order to help them. And yet we know even we cannot do it all on our own. What's even incredible is that you invite descendants of Nazi perpetrators to walk hand in hand with Holocaust survivors. With anti-Semitism on the rise, it is essential that these individuals come to terms with their family history and publicly denounce their atrocities that were committed against the Jewish people and commit to never stand by while the Jewish community is under attack. The scenes that we are seeing today of anti-Semitic attacks against Jews, swastikas, painted Jewish businesses, Jews beaten in the streets, is something we hoped would never happen again. Not only are the scenes of the 1940s repeating themselves, but the target has now expanded to include the State of Israel, its citizens, and its companies. When you march through the streets of Europe, proudly waving your Israeli flags, you are sending an important message to your communities that you stand with Israel and with the Jewish people. I would like to send you all my blessings for very successful marches and programs this year as you commemorate the uprising of the Warsaw Ghetto and embody your own uprising against anti-Semitism through your events. And of course, I really look forward after this evening, seeing you all in Jerusalem and joining you in the March of the Nations later this year. Thank you again for inviting me here tonight, and thank you all for your support of Israel and the Jewish people. It says in the book of Genesis, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. You have bestowed your blessings on Israel and the Jewish people, and I believe that God will bless you together with us in return. Just before Shabbat, some of you heard me blessing my children with the blessing of the Kohanim. I would like to add this blessing to you now. I will do it in Hebrew and in English, okay? So, Yevrechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. May the Lord bless you and reward you. May Yair Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka. May the Lord shine the countenance upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord turn his countenance toward you and grant you peace. Say together with me, peace. 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 Thank you very much. Shalom.
Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you so much, MK Moshe Turpaz. Thank you so much for these words and also this encouragement for what we do and what many of you are doing here, taking a stand for Israel. And we will come with many people and we will take this message to Jerusalem, to the streets of Israel. It's a great honor for us. And now I am so proud to announce Shai Terry. She's a mezzo-soprano, one of the most successful Israeli singers of the new generation. She studied at the University of Tel Aviv and the Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz and is regular guest at festivals like Borowski Festival and Baroque Vocal Minds and the Master Festival in Jerusalem. And today she is performing here with her husband Andre Roll, and we're very happy to have them. And she's been here several times for our Hanukkah days, and so it's our great joy to have her with us. Please give a warm welcome to Shai Terry, and she will announce her own songs. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this invitation and the warm welcome. I am very happy to be back here, this time together with Andre. And thank you so much. Toda rabba. Am Israel Chai and Shalom.
אוויר הרים צלול כיין וריח אורנים נישא ברוח הארבעים עם כל פעמונים ובתרדמת אילן ואבן שבויה העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור אך בבואי היום לשיר לך ולך לקשור כתרים קטונתי מצעיר בנייך ומאחרון המשוררים כי שמך צורבת השפתיים כי נשיקת שרף אם אשכחך ירושלים אשר כולה זהב ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור הלא לכל ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. חזרנו אל בורות המים, לשוק ולכיכר, שופר קורא בהר הבית, בעיר העתיקה, ובמערות אשר בסלע, אלפי שמשות זוכות. נשוב נרד אל ים המלח בדרך יריחו. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני
תודה רבה, פיום וגדל.
Thank you so much.
אני נולדתי אל המנגינות ואל השירים של כל המדינות. נולדתי ללשון וגם למקום, למעט להמון, שיושיט יד לשלום. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. אני נולדתי אל החלום, ובו אני רואה שיבוא השלום. נולדתי לרצון ולאמונה שהנה הוא יבוא אחרי 30 שנה. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. נולדתי לאומה ולשנים 2000, שמועה לאדמה ולחלקת שמיים, והיא רואה צופה, הנה עולה היום והשעה יפה, זוהי שעת שלום. ביחד. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יבוא, אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יופיע, אני רוצה להיות כבר בו. אני נולדתי לשלום שרק יגיע,
תודה רבה. vielen lieben Dank.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, vielen Dank, Shai Terry.
Thank you so much, Shai Terry and Andre Roll. We'll hear one more song from them, so we will be able to enjoy it even more, but we'll continue tonight with the program. And there is an important part of March of Life of this ministry is one thing is making a statement publicly for Israel against anti-Semitism. And also very important for us is the work of remembering and reconciliation. And this is also part of us looking into our family histories and working through the past. And a key role is honoring Holocaust survivors. And the time of Holocaust survivors is slowly coming to an end, but we still have them with us. And so I'm really glad to have Boris Abarko with us. He won't speak tonight. We have an event with him on the 16th of April. Just before the March of Life, he will speak in great detail here. We hear from his work and ministry. He's a survivor of a concentration camp, but also an author, and he's published a book with memories of survivors from the Ukraine. And he presently lives in Stuttgart because he needed to flee the war. And as soon as it's over, he will return to Kiev. And Boris Abarko, it's a tremendous honor to have you with us here today. So let's please stand for a moment. Let's give him a big hand. Let's honor him for his life and his life's work, his memories, which are so precious.
So, vielen Dank.
So thank you very much. And as I said before, on the 16th of April, we'll have a special evening here where we'll hear in great detail about the history and we'll present the books. But our job and our duty as March of Life is to transport memories to the following generation. It's important to us that we would hear the stories of the second, third, and fourth generation. And just the week before last, we had a series of events in London together with March of the Living, where we connected descendants of Nazi perpetrators to connect them with second and third generation of victims. And they spoke about their stories and it moved many people. And we'll do that tonight as well. And we're very happy to have Yair Harel here tonight. He himself is a representative of third generation. And he is an actor in a documentary, Tacheles at Last. And without great reflections, it's actually facing his own family past. And he also encounters the refusal of so many Nazis to face their own history and speak Tacheles there. Unfortunately, we can't watch the movie here. We'll see a trailer in a moment, but then we will have a conversation, a panel discussion. Michaela Buckel will be there with Yair and Simon Haas and Anna Reiner, who are both descendants of Nazi perpetrators in the fourth generation, and also Caroline Honecker, who is a psychological psychotherapist and who is a specialist, especially in the field of the transmission of trauma. And they will have a discussion. But here we'll see a trailer of the movie Tacheles at Last, and then we'll have the actor on stage himself. My mother says Judaism is a disease. The way that they say it's not fair, right? So I develop a computer game, and on the one hand you have a Jewish girl in Poland. So this is a girl, and you actively play the characters. So you don't just have to be a victim. You can do something against Nazis. And the Nazis don't have to be evil. That's quite provocative. So we've got a Jew and a German and we can do it together. Well, the motivation in the game is to protect the brother. So my mother, she was not able to protect her brother. That really destroyed her life. So I'll never allow anyone turning this into a game. Why do I have to suffer for things that you or my grandparents had to go through? I'm a new child. I'm just recently come into the world. So I'll leave. And that's hard for him to see. Oh, my grandson. What would happen if maybe the Bat Mitzvah would be their last evening before they flee, before they run away? So we're 80 years later. What is it my problem? Well, I grew up with this woman, but you didn't grow up with it. But yes, I felt the radioactive fallout of that atrocity. I can't do that. It's such a lot of rubbish. It's real filth. I'm not a hero, Dad. Why this black guy? Why can't we have him gold? Why can't he be shiny? Tacheles at last, or finally Tacheles. All right, now we've got them all switched on. Yaar and Simon and Anna and Carol, please come forward. And now, what do we do here? So you may pick your own place. I'll just go this side, and then you can just wherever you want to sit. I've got 2 microphones here. We need to share, so be like brothers and sisters, okay? Share fairly. So maybe you can all mention your names and how old you are. We just presented you briefly beforehand, but so we know who is who. Well, I'll begin. I'm Yaar, and obviously you saw who I am. And great to be here. I'm also be happy to share, and I'm looking forward to the questions. Well, I'll share the microphone. Well, my name is Simon Haas, and I'm also part of the March of Life movement. My name is Caroline Honecker, and as she announced, or Heinz announced, psychological psychotherapist. I work at the university clinic here, and next to that work, I also work on transgenerational trauma transmission. My name is Anna Raga, and I'm also part of March of Life movement. Well, we don't want to give too many spoilers. They do need to watch the movie. But yeah, for those who haven't seen the movie yet, you want to create a video game, okay? Well, you have to give a little spoiler. Is the game actually created? So what's happening? Can we play the game? Well, that's a very good question. Actually, that after the movie, the documentary, the topic was very hard for me, and I said I needed a break from it all. And actually, the 2 of us, we are currently developing the game right now, and we hope to be able to present a prototype by the end of the year. And you said you did something quite harsh, you went to Krakow, and can you explain why Krakow and what happened there when you went there to a certain house or when you started facing your family history? Well, Krakow is a very interesting place for us because my grandmother was from there. So on my father's side, all of my family is Polish, half from Lodz, half from Krakow. And Krakow was very important for us because the game is set in Krakow, among other places. And it was like a research trip that's not just in the movie, but it's also very common in the gaming society. And the second half of your question was, what happened? Well, what happened? I don't want to tell you too much because you need to watch the movie, but actually a lot of my first naive thoughts changed quite radically. So I realized the depth and the drama of the entire city. I became conscious of that. And suddenly I understood the responsibility I had. Oh, well, it wasn't something that was weighing on me, but it was my responsibility to be authentic and truthful in telling the story. But for the rest, you need to watch the movie. Okay, well. Simon, you had seen the movie? And then very quickly, you contacted Jahr. Why? Well, I watched a documentary in early December. And even the same evening, I wrote to Jahr because the documentary really stirred me very deeply. I have worked through my family history, and I was researching, what happened during the time of the Shoah, what happened in my family. And I discovered that all of my great-grandfathers were part of it. It was not just some remote Germany, but my family was involved. And this was something that really shook me back then. And now when I saw the documentary, I saw that the same shaking on the other side. Jahr, as a Jewish person, found out his family history and discovered it is part of his life as well. And I saw the parallels. I thought, I have to write to this guy. And I would love to spend some time with him and ask him so many questions. Because when you watch the documentary, you will have many questions too. So that's why I wrote to him. And so you worked through your family history there, you found out things. Could you tell us what does it actually mean researching your family history? Well, 3 of my 4 great-grandfathers were part of the Wehrmacht and were involved in different battles and crusades. One went to the east, another one also went through France and then back east again, marching up to Moscow. And the third one, for a long time we thought, oh, there wasn't so much. He was stationed close to Kaliningrad. It was Königsberg at the time. And then we discovered that he was actually involved in a death march where 5,000 Hungarian women and children, Jewish women and children, were marched to the shores of the Baltic Sea. And in the end, they were forced to go into the Baltic Sea in February 45. It was freezing cold. And of these 5,000, only 3,000 ever made it to the beach. And of the 3,000 there, only a handful survived, and my great-grandfather was involved there. And my 4th great-grandfather printed Nazi propaganda and took pictures. And these are things I can't just accept. It's different than hearing things in school, Germany did this and that. But when I know that my family was involved and were convinced, it's a different kettle of fish. Yeah, you can see that in the trailer. I didn't experience the atrocities myself, but I suffered the radioactive fallout. What does that mean? And do you know that in your life as well, this fallout? Well, obviously I know the fallout because I have not made a movie out of it for nothing. And I think what he means here is that my grandparents were over-traumatized. I can't tell you what's there in the documentary, but even in the documentary, we were not able to tell all of it. And there were things that happened in the family, and that was passed down to my father. And because I noted certain things as a child, it was transmitted to me as well. And the documentary was the attempt, or even managed to work through part of it and understand why. And this radioactive fallout is something I still feel today. I'll probably feel it for the rest of my life, and my father will feel it for the rest of his life. But what we were able to do is find a way to deal with it. And that's why I'm sitting here and talking to you now. what happened then, it took about 6 years and will work for another 120 years. You know, the damage that was done is so terrible. And so that's the radioactive fallout. You know, it takes about 10 seconds to drop a nuclear bomb, and it destroys an entire region for hundreds of years. And so that's what it's like. So you are third and fourth generation, Anna? Fourth? Yeah? Has there been anything like this fallout also in the descendants of the perpetrators? Well, absolutely. I think first there is the indifference and the silence that is there. This is something that I needed to face in my family. Nobody ever talked about it, and when I started asking questions, they kept saying, well, we couldn't help it, we were just followers. And when I then started doing research myself, I actually discovered many terrible things. One of my great-grandfathers very quickly entered the Nazi party. He was convinced, not just convinced, he was a fanatic, and in the place where he was living, he was called the Terror of Greffenhausen, and he was committed to cleansing the entire village of Jews, and he even had his own relatives put into prison because they weren't completely faithful Nazis. And for a long time, this was just drowned in silence, and when it came out, it really shocked me deeply, because that's anything else but just being a follower. And I could speak about my other three great-grandfathers, but it would take too much time. But they were also actively involved. Later I can maybe mention a bit more detail there, but there's this indifference and a silence. But also what I saw in my family was a hardness, that because of the silence there was no openness, but just closed hearts. And also what I saw, there's a measure of aggression that was passed on. That was the consequence. So yeah, that's what I've seen. And Caro, you as a psychologist, you might say, well, I haven't experienced it, but now there's more research on the topic. How is it possible that you don't talk about it, you don't know anything about it? But how is it possible that even in the second and third generation, I don't know how many generations the research is covering, to say, yes, it has effects and there is scientific proof of that? Well, research is now doing a lot of research in Holocaust trauma, the transmission of trauma from one generation to the next. And you can imagine that children of traumatized people carry a backpack on their back without even knowing what is inside. And many times they can't explain the way they feel because nobody's ever talked about it. And there's different sort of theories how the transmission actually takes place. One thing is learning by model, the model of the parents, the grandparents. There is a silence on certain things. There are taboo topics, certain words you must not mention, things you must not do. You learn certain patterns as a child, and children always try to explain why are the parents the way they are, why is mom the way she is, or dad the way he is, and they try to build their own history, and they need to guess a lot of things because don't talk about it, and there are a lot of question marks in their lives, and that has an impact on their development. And so you mentioned that in your family that people did not talk about it, and Yar, in your family, did they talk about it, or was it one of those topics you wouldn't touch? There is no easy answer to that question, because it was really strange. I was the younger brother, and they hardly ever talked to me about it, and my older brother told me once that grandma was asked to get some photos, and then she leafed through and said, oh, he's dead, and he's also dead. That's how it turned out. And to me, they were just like shading what happened. My grandfather talked a bit more. Of course, he had the number there, and he told me what happened. Of course, I just was a little boy. It wasn't in detail. But intensely and to explain things, no, that never happened. Because for them too, it was reliving trauma. So they didn't want to drag up the traumas again. I remember I started asking questions in detail once, and they would close up. And well, then you have to watch the documentary, okay? Well, there were alternative truths kind of telling the story. And my father and I together started working through, because my father knew a bit more than I did, and he did a bit more research. But no, it didn't happen. And Simon, how was it for you? Did you talk about it? Was it open, visible? Well, actually, we did talk about the topic of Holocaust and Third Reich as a family. It wasn't like a taboo in my family. And just by the fact that, of course, it was a big topic at school, and then at home we also asked questions. But despite all of that, it took a long time. It took us a long time to think about, what happened actually in our family. And when we started researching that, there were other reactions from other parts of the family that were not so positive, because many people in our family did not like the fact that we were dealing with the fast. They said, "Why are you pointing fingers at our family? Why do you need to dig up all that old stuff?" At the same time, many things turned up that actually weren't quite true or didn't really represent the truth. First, they told stories like how our grandfather or great-grandfather, my great-grandfather, he was just a radio operator. He wasn't at the front, or where he was, nothing happened. Or typical stories of the battles in the East. The summer was so hot that they could fry eggs on the tanks. So these were the stories we heard. So until we got to the point where we found facts and knew what happened, it took a lot of research. Now, Caro, when we talk about this, what is the role of speaking or talking in all of the working through of trauma and coping with trauma? Are there families or people, individuals who speak about this? Because many people think that, if I don't talk about it, I won't be a burden on anyone else, so let's not talk. Well, unfortunately, this never works. Without talking about things, things can't be healed. I need to do something about it so healing can happen. And there's a very interesting study that says, in the same measure that I am willing to talk about things, it was a study on women who were raped during and after the Second World War, and they discovered that the more willing the women were to forgive the perpetrators, and the more open they were to talk about the atrocities that were committed against them, the better they were able to deal with it, and they had fewer symptoms. And so that actually would agree with the fact that it's very, very important that we speak about the things that have happened. Well, of course, it needs to be a protected sphere where it's helpful, but we need to do something about it. Now, Anna, your family has a connection to Krakow. You were there as well. Can you tell us about this connection and what happened when you went there? Well, as I mentioned just now, one of my great-grandfathers was part of the gendarmerie in Krakow. When the ghetto in Krakow was started in 1941, and gendarmerie there were responsible for the war crimes. They were immediately subordinate to the SS. And I went to Krakow with March of Life together with my brother. And it was something completely different to be in the place, to encounter the people there. There were Holocaust survivors who had survived the ghetto in Krakow. And that just really broke my heart. And I stood there as a descendant of the perpetrators, and I was able to ask forgiveness on behalf of my ancestors. And that was very important for me to speak it, even though I wasn't responsible for it. It was still my responsibility and is my responsibility to speak the truth. And that produced healing in my own heart, but also in the hearts of the victims and their following generations. There were survivors of the first generation and their children and grandchildren. We were able to embrace. And to me, that was indescribable. And that's why it is so important to speak about it, to speak the truth. Wow, thank you for sharing this. Especially when you go to places like this. You also went to the place, same kind of route you took. What I think is really, really impressive The documentary is very close to you, it's very real. It becomes very personal, also in your family, close to your family, your mother, your grandmother and father. And there are lots of Germans involved as well. So and many Germans watch the movie, how is it to actually publicize something that's so personal? Well, that's an excellent question. I've wondered this myself many times. I think when I began the project, I didn't really realize what I was in for. I was 21 or... No, I was 20 or 21, something like that. And by the time I'd finished, I was 25. So it took 4 years to do the documentary. And I think only now I realize what it actually did. And I'm just here because of the documentary. I met him, for instance, and now we're working together. And that's the reason why I did this, to put something out there and to meet people like you guys. And to be honest, I didn't even realize what I was doing. I said, I feel this urgency, let's do this, it will be good. And there were lots of difficulties to overcome, emotional problems, financial problems, organizational problems. You don't believe how many German organizations tried to prevent us from doing this, because I was a young survivor. So I don't know why, but somehow there is this tendency in the German movie scene to show the classic image of a Holocaust survivor, but to have a young survivor or be provocative. Nobody's ever done a video game on this. They don't want that because it's, in the German cultural ministry, we failed with our request for support, and that shows something of what's here. We can still go for it, we can show the importance, and we can go through. And I want to also take use of this moment because of another thing. I am so glad to meet you, because I always felt that we as Jews needed to do the work of the Germans, because you saw in the movie there, one of the guys in the movie, they said, we Jews are always thinking about this. We build institutions in Israel and the United States. We are doing so much about this. Why don't the German? I asked myself this 8 million times, and now I'm seeing other Germans who are dealing in the same topic. So thank you. That makes me so happy to see this. Well, I hope that this documentary, maybe is it somewhere in the cinemas? I didn't find it anywhere to buy. What are you planning with it? Well, I'll give you a copy, okay? Well, thank you. No, but really, what I think is amazing, I hope that this will stir something, but I hope that it will become normal that families talk about this. I don't know what your experience has been up to now. Is it then, oh yeah, I should ask questions as well? Or not really? Well, both, really. We've got a very broad spectrum of people, and we've got this documentary now even in educational institutions, and in Frankfurt and in Paderborn we were able to present this in the school, and also in Great Britain, in New York. So we have gone global, and the response is always positive. There are few voices that say exactly like you said, oh, why stir it up again? There were some good Germans. Well, if we go about this, then 97% of Germans all hid Jews, okay? And nobody should have actually died because all the Germans were hiding them. And I was actually quite surprised how many positive responses I got and how many people came and talked to me at the first showing. I think we had the premiere in Berlin, and they came to me and thanked me for doing this project. And I didn't actually realize this was going to happen when we started. I was so involved, and then getting that response was really, it was very, very pleasant. Okay, Simon, now, how can we stand here on the non-Jewish side to say, what can we do in our generation? We're third and fourth generation. Well, I'm fourth generation, you are third, you are fourth. How can it become normal to know about these things? And also the effort, because it does take an effort, research is effort. What can we do to advance this? Well, I think, like Yara said, the important thing is that this actually provokes, especially in the young generation, those who are in school now or just finishing school, and the following generations, that you cause them to start thinking about it and talk about it. So things can change. As it was mentioned before in one of the speeches, it is possible. You see it today that after the history we had in our nation, you can't believe it really, but it is possible that anti-Semitism is on the rise again because it has never been worked through, especially not on a personal level. And taking this as our charge, it doesn't matter what means we have to use, creative means, to not just work through it in school as a general topic, but have a documentary like this. This is personal, this has to do with me, and to make people think. That is so important. And so then we can truly raise our voices, not because of accusation against Germans or Germany, but because I am convicted about my own family, my own story, to say, I stand with Israel, I stand with my Jewish people and Jewish friends and the Jewish people in Germany, and I will not tolerate the rise of anti-Semitism here, and that's what we need to do. Well, we still got some work ahead of us, right? And so thank you so much to all of you. As I said before, well, 20 minutes is not really enough. Well, unfortunately, I can't ask you any more questions. We're over time already. You'll probably be around for a bit more. Many people will want to ask you. But can we do something like we watch the documentary together? And then you probably have thousands of requests like that. But then to have some time to talk about it. Or is your schedule too filled? Well, speak to my agent. No, rubbish. Of course we can do that. We are always open for that, especially in a context like that, presenting it to people independently from finding friends. It's important to talk about this. I'm sure we'll find a possibility. That's great. Well, thank you to all of you. And then you can take the chairs away again. Well, I can take the chair with me. Oh, that's great. Well, so before we continue, we will see a brief excerpt from a musical. As we said before, there are also creative ways of presenting things. And the musical is something we did in 2018 on occasion of the founding of the State of Israel. I wrote it, well, yes. But why? That's not what I wanted to say. No, what I wanted to say, why I wrote it, why I wanted to tell the story was because it really was so impressive for me. Many times you hear stories like, well, until 45 the Jews lived like that, and then, well, but what I thought was so shocking, this will to survive, the will to build something, to build a state, despite the fact that you've just been through horrible things, you are traumatized. And one example were all the passengers of the Exodus who were all Holocaust survivors, many of them children, and they were willing to fight for the right to come to Israel and to build the state there. And later, in 48, the State of Israel was founded. And in this excerpt, you see the night. It's a scene that it's playing at night, where the trauma is surfacing again, the things you've experienced, and we'll see part of that.
In 1942, the Gestapo deported most of the 250 Jewish families. People who had hidden out were soon being discovered and rounded up in a camp where the Nazis first shot the elderly, then most of the men, women, children. including my mom, my sister. I had managed to hide in a cowshed. I had been there for many months until someone told the Nazis where I was. I was sent to Belchis, Buchin, Auschwitz, Velitschka, Taucher near Leipzig. I was on a death march when the Red Army came to liberate us. I went home because I wanted to find my birth certificate. I wanted to prove that I'm a living person. Everything was gone. But I'm not a ghost. I'm alive. I am alive.
Papa, can you hear me? Papa, can you see me? Papa, can you find me in the night? Papa, are you near me? Papa, can you hear me? Papa, can you help me not be frightened? Looking at the skies, I seem to see a million eyes. Which ones are yours? Where are you now that yesterday has waved goodbye and closed its doors? The night is so much darker, the wind is so much colder. The world I see is so much bigger now that I'm alone.
There are so many orphans on this ship. But now we are family, right?
Children, do you know the song Roshinkes mit Mandeln?
Yes!
Okay, then lay down.
In dem Mesamigdosh, in der winke Heide, sitzt die Emul über Sion allein. Ihr Ben Yochideden wiegt sie Geseide und singt ihm zum Schlafen ein Liedele schön. Der Jideles Wiegele sitzt der Klo als Siegele. Das Siegele ist gefahren handeln. Das wird sein dein Beruf. Roshinkes mit Mandeln. Schlaf, Schiedele, schlaf. Schlaf, Schiedele, schlaf.
Vielen Dank.
Well, thank you so much, Michaela. Thank you, Yar. And thank you, everyone on the panel who told their stories. And this is a core value of March of Life, to also present things in a creative way. And also what's important for us is to take the story to the streets to make it visible. And let's watch a video of the Marches of Life that took place in 2022, last year. And then we will give you the opportunity to support March of Life financially as well. But let's give you this brief recap of 2022 in 70 cities, 15 different nations, which after the pandemic was wonderful, because of course many marches had kind of fallen asleep, but some of the marches were done according to COVID conditions. Well, unless we raise our voices publicly against anti-Semitism, hatred of Jews, racism and injustice, if we don't raise our voices and are silent, this makes us followers just as our fathers and mothers were at the time of National Socialism. And just like them, we will also be responsible. Therefore, dear friends, we as March of Life raise our voices in 70 cities and 15 nations this year against anti-Semitism and hatred of Jews.
Ich möchte mich für Marsch des Lebens, für die
I want to say thank you to March of Life and the whole organization. What you are doing is so valuable to me, and to me it's so important. I wish you much success, and I continue to wish all of us to stand in peace and righteousness and for war to end soon. You too can hold a March of Life.
So, Applaus hier auch.
Well, a big hand also. There are lots of organizers here in the hall. You have held your marches in your own cities many times against lots of opposition and challenges. And of course, March of Life is also connected with a financial investment. And we want to give you the opportunity to support us financially, so we will be able to continue to do this year after year. And for this purpose, we have put these envelopes into the seat pocket in front of you, and they contain two things, because we want to give you two opportunities to support us. One thing is a form, and this gives you the opportunity to support March of Life with a one-time donation to cover the costs of the conference and to really give us a push for what we have still planned on Yom HaShoah. We'll present that in a moment. And secondly, what we have in there is this card, and it says, anti-Semitism doesn't take a break, and therefore we don't stop raising our voices for Israel and against anti-Semitism. And for the work of March of Life, we are looking for 100 new supporting members who say, yeah, with my monthly donation, I want to support you. I want to enable you not to stop your work. And you can be a key part to become a supporting member and support this work. And as March of Life, we are motivating people, like with this conference and throughout the year, to face the story of anti-Semitism personally in your families, in your cities. And we encourage people to build friendships to Jewish communities, to Israel, and year after year to take to the streets. And this is a continuous work we do. And with your supporting membership, you can support us, so we can do this with our office here, the people who work for us here. And so I want to invite you to become a supporting member. And my personal goal is to win 20 supporting members here on this conference of the 100 we want to win this year. And you can support it with a minimum donation of €30 euro per month. You can also do it with 500 per month if you want to. Whatever you want, you can complete the card, check the boxes, and then we'll get in touch with you and give you more information how this can look like practically. And for your one-time donation, you can do it either in cash or through the form that you can complete, and you can give a pledge that you can fulfill later on. And you can also order our newsletters and other publications. And so you can remain up to date with what's happening. And of course, you can also do an online donation. There is a QR code that you can scan, or you can visit our website. We'll play a bit of music and we'll give you time to get ready, 2 minutes maybe, and then we'll continue with our program. And I am looking forward to hearing what is yet to come.
So, wir werden es jetzt gleich so machen, dass
So in a moment we'll have the ushers who will come around, and they will have baskets to pick up whatever you want to give, and you can put it into the basket. But until they do that, I would like to have Anna Suzette Pfeiffer come forward. And something that is part of March of Life is that every year we're sending volunteers to Adi Negev. So Anna said you were there. What is Adi Negev? Well, I was, and Adi Negev is a rehabilitation village in the Negev. As the name says, they also have a base in Jerusalem, and it's a place of people with severe handicaps who get therapy, but who are also included in society there. And what do you do as a volunteer there? Well, as a volunteer, you're allocated to a group. I was privileged to work in a kindergarten, and you just support them there. As a volunteer, you support the people there, you are with them in their everyday life, you do very simple things with them, maybe give food to them or help them get dressed, take a walk in the village, discover the Negev, it's beautiful. These are the first jobs you are given, and then you've got fun things to do, maybe a water fight there because it's nice and warm there. So you have lots of adventures to expect. Would you recommend doing this? Of course, yalla. At first I went there for 6 months, and I ended up spending a year and a half there, so I can recommend going. So please, a big hand to Anna Suzette. I can only recommend that. And we offer this also within a volunteer ministry that's financed by the German Ministry of Young People. If you're under 27 years old, you can also go if you're older, but then you don't get money from the state. But you can go and pass by the information stand we have. You can pick up the information there. So if you know young people who maybe just finishing school, this is what you can do. Serve Israel, the society there, learn Hebrew. You can recommend that. Thank you so much, Seti. This is wonderful. And now I am really happy that we will hear another song by Shai Terry, accompanied by Andre Rowe. I know that you know the song, and please, when you do, sing with me.
בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. בשנה הבאה או תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. ענבים אדומים יבשילו עד הערב ויוגשו צוננים לשולחן, ורוחות רדומים ייסעו עליהם הדרך, עיתונים ישנים וענן. או תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. או תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה נפרוס כפות ידיים אל האור הניגר הלבן. ענפה לבנה תפרוס באור כנפיים והשמש תזרח בתוכן. או תראה כמה טוב יהיה בשנה הבאה. בשנה הבאה. לה 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 בשנה הבאה.
תודה רבה. Vielen Dank.
Thank you so much.
Dankeschön.
Thank you so much.
So, vielen Dank.
Thank you so much, Shai Terry. Thank you so much, Andrew Roll. That was glorious, a great joy. We want to enter into the last part of our evening, and we'll talk about a topic. Moshe Turpaz mentioned this. It is our motto for the year this year, Uprising Against Antisemitism. For this year marks the 80th anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And first of all, we want to get a brief historic overview on the Ghetto Uprising by Jonathan Mal. He is a historian, and Yoni, maybe I can ask you to come, so you would give us a brief historic overview. Well, I would like to begin my brief presentation with a picture that probably many of you know, and I will talk about its history in a moment. It shows a group of Jewish people that are led out of a house by German soldiers. In the center, a boy with raised hands, somewhere in the ghetto of Warsaw. The ghetto was established in the center of Warsaw. It was a formerly Jewish quarter. In October, they issued the order that all Jewish inhabitants of the citizens, almost a third of the population, had to relocate there. 370,000 Jews of Warsaw were in 1,000 buildings surrounded by a high 3-meter high wall. And later, more Jews were added from Germany and other nations. And the life there was marked by epidemics, control, violence, and death. And yet there was everyday life. Later, a survivor summarized the time and quote, the fear of death was always with us, and still we had a normal life. We had enforced labor, and there were romances. There was theater. People went to the restaurant, while behind the restaurant somebody died. There were deportations, and 100,000 of the inhabitants of the ghetto died. And for a long time, this photograph of the boy in the Warsaw Ghetto represented just that, the desperation and helplessness of the victims of the Holocaust. But it's only one side that we see. But this photo was in the report of one of the German soldiers who was responsible for the liquidation of the ghetto. It was probably taken in May 40th, the end of the time, when Jewish resistance fighters were actually resisting in the ghetto. At first, there was no serious resistance there. And after the Wehrmacht started the war against the Wehrmacht in 1941, there were rumors in the ghetto about mass murders, and some politically radical Jewish demanded an uprising. But in general, people were hoping that the rumors were not true. And secondly, that the Jewish self-governing body in the ghetto, the Jewish Council, would be able to solve themselves through talking. But this changed in July 1942, when the deportations from the Warsaw Ghetto began. There were forced relocations, and until September, almost all but 60,000 inhabitants were deported, and it became clear that there was no way out of the murder. And some of the Jewish organizations there, some of them really enemies, they were communists and nationalists and Zionists and others, they started forming a coalition. And their leader was Mordechai Anielewicz. And next to that, there was a secret Jewish organization of former soldiers in the Polish army, the Jewish Military Coalition. And then in 1943, there were soldiers who came and wanted to have a second deportation wave, and the fighters of the Jewish military organization resisted for 3 days with extreme force, and so the attempt was aborted. And by now the ghetto had been extremely limited to the yellow area. So you see the yellow area is the area after the deportations. So we saw the Jewish underground groups, they built structures for coordinated resistance. Civilians from the ghetto joined the fighters, they organized pistols, hand grenades, Molotov cocktails, they formed fighting units, and they built subterranean bunkers and tunnels. And in April 1943, the beginning of the Passover week, police force started surrounding the ghetto, and SS units invaded the ghetto to actually liquidate the ghetto as Himmler had ordered. And the 800 fighters were able to keep up the resistance for almost 4 weeks. Only very few were able to hide out after the defeat or flee the city through canalization. And the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising was defeated in a very bloody way. Militarily speaking, it was without significance, but more than other things, it became a symbol of Jewish resistance. The Warsaw Ghetto fighters, like Mordechai Anielewicz and others, were very much in the public view before the State of Israel was founded, and represented not desperation, but courage and determination. The story of sacrifice and victim did only play a minor role in Israel and was connected to shame. Later, with the Eichmann court case, it changed in the 60s, but I'm not talking about that right now. Let me end up with the boy of Warsaw. To this day, we were not able to identify him. There are a few theories who he could have been, but he represents many stories that can't be told. And at the same time, he shows how important it is to hear every story that we still can hear.
Vielen Dank, Jonathan Mahl.
Thank you so much, Jonathan Mahl, for this presentation, the insight into the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And now we want to have a conversation with a very special friend. Maybe you can bring up the two chairs. We want to talk to Udi Lehavi. He right now still is representative of Keren Hayesod in Germany. And we've been connected for a long time. And he is also son of a woman who was involved in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and we'll talk about this in a moment. But first of all, Udi, you asked me, you had a story to share, and so please take that time. And I would like to say thank you to all of you. Unfortunately, this is not working. Well, I would like to say thank you to you, Heinz, that you saw to it that tonight we could have a family reunion with Moshe, because he's our member of Knesset here. The two of us, we have both married into the same family. Moshe is married to the niece of my sister-in-law. So for years, he's also been my brother's neighbor in Jerusalem. So thank you very much for taking care of this happy family reunion.
Zusammenführung hier.
So this is a Mishpacha reunion. You've got a large family. That's great. Now, Udi, before we go for our topic, I said you are still representative of Keren Hayesod, but that's going to end soon, right? Well, to me, maybe that is... After 18 years, maybe it is the time to say shalom. But at the same time, I can welcome my successor, Stella, and she's also responsible here for Baden-Württemberg, and she will keep on working in that important position here for Keren Hayesod in Baden-Württemberg. And I believe that in the past 10 years, we have done a lot of things together, right? And I don't know whether all of you realize that, but Heinz and Avi were our guests. You know, we had an event of delegates in Munich last week. And so we can't take it for granted that you can come to talk to the delegates of Keren Hayesod all over Europe and talk about the way your organization was birthed and about your plans. And so our delegates really were deeply moved, yeah? They were moved and stirred, and they accepted what you had to share. So thank you very much for coming and for not just going to the Christian world, right? But you move something in the Jewish world as well. And so we really want to thank you for that. And also thank you very much to Charlotte and Jobst. Thank you that you have been doing this for more than 15 years. And I just shared with you, to me this is like a very beautiful evening, not just because it would have been my mother's dream, blessed be her memory. But first of all, I always feel at home here, and so it's great. And secondly, there have been many moments tonight that will be with me, will stay with me. You know, this... The first ever performance of Exodus took place in Gan Shmuel, and I was born and raised in Gan Shmuel. So again, it is a connection that we share. And last year, we had the group Sahal here, and I really remember We had some beautiful moments together. We sang together Jerusalem Zahav. We had your band and the Israeli army band. And so we have had some really beautiful events. And my mother could have only dreamed about them. And so thank you also very, very much. Well, thank you so much, Udi. And we are so grateful for this friendship with you and the cooperation in recent years with Keren Hayesod. You have moved so much. And the good thing is, you will leave Keren Hayesod and we'll continue working with Stella and we'll keep connected to Keren Hayesod. But give Udi a big hand for what he has moved for Israel and the friendship. The things we have done together, it's really special. Thank you very much. But now we need to address the topic why we're here. Well, not quite, okay. Because you wanted to win another 100 supporting members. You only need another 99. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Udi. Well, thank you very much. That's really moving. But now let's talk about the topic. We're talking about your mother. Her name is Aviva Lehavi. Well, she was born sitting. And you sent us a few pictures, and we just want to show them. You took them, family pictures with you. We can recognize you, of course. We can tell who you are. They're wonderful family pictures. But it's your mother's story. And it's a very exciting story, and it's connected to the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Maybe you can tell us, where was your mother born? Where is she from? And how was it back then? Well, she was born in Warsaw, 1923, and she grew up there. And when the war began in 1939, she was 16, and then the whole family moved to the ghetto, and the family was a very normal family. So if any of you still know Esperanto, so her father, my grandfather, was the first student of Zamenhof who actually learned Esperanto. He probably was the last one as well, because only very few people speak Esperanto nowadays. And one day, she was there with her sister Frida, and they worked in a production line, and when they returned from work, her mother, her father, and the little brother Ishai, as well as her husband's her wife's husband, Frida's husband, and their two children had been taken away to Treblinka, and they were murdered there. And I think for her, that was a moment when she was wondering, what can I do? Our lives will never again be the way they were before. And then she joined the group of Mordechai Nilevich. She was also in the Shomer HaTzair youth movement, and she was part of that even before the ghetto, right? Yeah, she was a Zionist. That's Shomer HaTzair. It was a Zionist youth movement. Nowadays, you'd probably say, if you were in Israel, it's more like left-wing thing. But what's left or right today? But anyway, she joined that group. And her job during the uprising was simple. She had to take the messages from the central command to the front. Back then, they didn't have phones or WhatsApp or text messages, but they trained the women to really go through the canals, the canalization, and to bring the messages to the front lines. And she survived that, and together with her sister, both of them were taken to Majdanek. Yeah, so she was arrested, right? She was arrested, came to the central distribution place, and then taken to Majdanek. And there she spent 4 months, and she waited for the time when she was supposed to be killed.
Und dann dort hat man eigentlich das Lebensmut verloren.
And actually that's where she lost her will to live. Both she and her sister, they thought there was no way out. And then they said, before it will all be over, we'd rather have our names put on a list. And with that list, maybe our end will come sooner. But actually that was their salvation, because the following day she was taken to Częstochow, where she was put into a labor camp, where she worked until the end of January 45, and from there she was liberated. But her path of suffering didn't end right away.
Auch schon schwierig, bevor sie dann nach Palästina oder
Because it was still quite difficult before she came to Palestine. Because from Bari, she took a boat to Haifa, but the British only gave 100,000 certificates for people who were to come to Palestine after the war. Everybody else needed to go to Cyprus. They spent time there in barracks that German soldiers who were in British captivity had built for them. And so my mother was on that boat, and that boat, there was also a journalist, an American journalist, and she took pictures. And so they were wondering, how can we use those pictures that she took to take them to land, so they would be published. And so they took my mother and they wrapped her arm like she'd broken her arm. And then among the bandages there was the negatives, the film, and then she was sent to Haifa. And in Haifa they took the film out of the bandages, and my mother was allowed to return to the boat, and then she was also taken to Cyprus. And only after the State of Israel was founded, she was allowed to come to Israel. And then she went to the kibbutz Gan Shmuel, where the musical Exodus was presented. She lived there until she died in 1999. And so you were born in Gan Shmuel. Gan Shmuel is a kibbutz of the Hashomer Hatzair. And so how was it in your home? Did your mom speak about these things? Was it something that you learned from her? How was it? Well, we heard before about the difficulties that many people had in talking about things. And when you grow up in a kibbutz, you grow up with the fact that there are people like my mother who always talked about it, who worked through their traumas by repeating things over and over again. She talked a lot, but on the other hand, there were also many other people who just carried the things with them till the day they died. And you were able to tell by looking at their children as well. Some of them, they just couldn't cope. And even the second generation committed suicide because they couldn't cope. And so I don't want to claim that it's just because of that. But I believe that it is connected with the fact that they had a very hard childhood. Because not everyone was able to deal with it like my mother did. Because she said, over and over again, she said, we must take care that something like this will never happen again. And so she also had encounters with many German youth groups, and she shared of her own experiences over and over again. And so also for me, it is still very important that as long as there are people who have survived the Holocaust, that is our duty, also with Karen Hayesod, to keep collecting donations so they can live a dignified life until the very moment that the last one of them is no longer with us. That's our job. And this is something I carry. And this is what I have received from my mother and heard from her over and over again. And so we can really give a big hand for that, and we can honor this special. Well, actually, the honor goes to my mother. Anyway, I've got one more question. Your mother is kind of a hero, right? She's a hero because she was involved in the fights, in the battle, in her way, in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. Do you think that it made it easier for her to talk about it, or what does it mean for you to know this story?
Ich glaube, dass wir alle irgendwann in unserem Leben gefragt werden.
Well, I think that all of us are asked in our lives at one point, what did you do when this or that happened? I think every one of us has or can move things. It doesn't matter whether it is in one's personal surroundings or in parliament. And these are the moments when you ask yourself, what am I doing? How do I want to do it? And then in the end you say, well, I'm glad I did it. And I think that if there's 300, 400, 500 people, every one of us can make a difference and can move things. And that's why it's so important that you are moving things. And this always stirred me also to do things, also for other people. And therefore, I'm also proud that I was privileged to serve Israel and the people of Israel through the work of Karen Hayesod. Because I can say that together we have made a difference. Well, thank you so much, Udi, for this insight also in your own family history, what's on your heart. And so let's honor Udi with a big hand of applause. Well, thank you so much.
Und das ist eben auch
And now this is also an inspiration for us. As Udi mentioned it, just to take a stand, to make a difference. And this is our motto this year, Uprising Against Antisemitism. And we've created a little video with a good friend in Israel. She's Holocaust survivor, so let us see this. I am Tirza Halivni. I'm 88 years old. I was born in Germany, in Geilingen. And when I was 4 years old, I saw how they almost beat my father to death, and later he was killed in Dachau. And I will not forget that. And today I see it as my goal not to forget everything that happened to me and what was done to the Jewish people. And anti-Semitism in the world is terrible. And I hope that people will keep thinking of Israel and will never forget what was done to the Jewish people. 50% of the people younger than 33 years old have not heard about the Holocaust. 25% of people worldwide have anti-Semitic attitudes. I take a stand against anti-Semitism. Therefore, I am part of March of Life. You too can have a march in your city. Uprising against anti-Semitism.
Genau, Aufstand gegen Antisemitismus.
Uprising against anti-Semitism, that's our motto.
Wir rufen dazu auf,
and we are calling people to have marches of life around the Jewish Holocaust Remembrance Day, Yom HaShoah, and the Holocaust Remembrance Day has been focused on the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. It's a day of memory of the victims and heroes. And so that's in Nisan, in the Jewish calendar. And this year it is on the 17th and 18th of April. So around the time of this day, so also the week before or after that day, we are calling people to hold marches of light all over the world. And we are so grateful because even now we have 59 dates for marches worldwide, and maybe you can show the picture from Argentina in different places to Bolivia, Dominican Republic, Germany in many cities, Ecuador, Colombia. There'll be a huge march again in Peru, in Lima, in Paraguay. In every province we'll have a March of Life in Paraguay, in Switzerland, in different places, in the UK. In England, Northern Ireland, and also in Wales, in the United States. And these are just the dates that have been fixed now with dates. I'm sure that we'll have more than 100 marches. This is what I expect. In Poland, they are in the process of organizing a march in Warsaw, and also in Lithuania we'll have marches of life. Many other nations beside, and we are so grateful for it. And now here we officially want to open the March of Life season, and I would like to ask Jobst Bittner to speak to us there. Well, I am privileged to open the season together with you. Thank you so much, Heinz. And first of all, of course, we want to show the banner, Uprising Against Antisemitism. Maybe you can come to the stage. And this banner is something that we want to see in at least 100 places in different languages for people to carry it, and we want to show it in the press, in the media. This shall be visible. So try and, stand there. And now we have a plan. So we are calling you as organizers and directors. We are calling all of you who are organizing a March of Life event, come forward. Come to the stage and we'll have a picture. And you take a stand behind the banner. Okay, so you come here. Everyone who's organizing a March of Life, come forward and stand behind the banner, Uprising Against Antisemitism. And there'll be a photo, and we would also ask our friends to come forward. Please do come for a picture, a kick-off picture with all the organizers here. Do come. So now here, should we all stand behind the banner? Yep, we get here.
Der Daumen ging hoch.
Okay, thumbs up. Thank you so much to all of you. You can remain there for a moment. You look very beautiful here. So give them a big hand. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Und ihr müsst jetzt dreimal ums Gebäude gehen.
And you have to walk the premises 3 times. Circle the building.
So, wir sind fast am Ende des Abends.
Now this takes us almost to the end of the evening, but one more time we'll have YC dance with a traditional Jewish dance. Give them a big hand.
So, vielen Dank, YC Dan.
Thank you so much, YC Dance. And this is the end of our evening. And now is the time to say thank you. First of all, thank you so much to Moshe, Turpaz, Josh Reinstein. Thank you, Josh, for bringing wonderful guests to us every time. It's so special. Thank you so much to Shai Terry and Andre Vroll. We so much enjoyed your music. It was glorious.
Vielen Dank, Udi, nochmal.
And thank you so much to Udi one more time. Thank you, Yara, for your stories. And also the others, the third and fourth generation. It was glorious. Thank you to the band. Thank you to everyone who's working behind the scenes, the sound people, cleaning the facilities. So many volunteers here. And so please give a big hand to everyone who's not visible. Give them a big hand of applause. Well, also from my side, thank you so much, and thank you for Heinz, the excellent moderation here, everyone who's involved, thank you so much. And also, thank you to all of you. And I would like to point the attention to 2 or 3 more things. There is the March of Life information stand, and if you would like to receive more information on March of Life, it's the magazine over there, and you can also sign up for our newsletter there. And also there is information on the March of the Nations. Come to Jerusalem, bring 10 people, each of you, then we're the right number. Join us at the information stand. And let me point you to the book that Jobst Bittner wrote, Breaking the Veil of Silence. This is the foundation of what we do. Working through family history and stories. Jobst Bittner was a true pioneer in this, encouraging and teaching us. And he wrote the story in this book. It's available in 12 languages now. It's not up to date anymore. But we have German available here, or English, and if you don't have it yet, get it. And let me point out March of Life conference next year, 2024. You can note the date already, taking place from the 9th to the 11th of February 2024. Bring your friends. If you liked it this time, next year, bring your friends. And of course, we won't be inactive until then. We will have marches in Israel, in the March of the Nations. And I'm really happy to see you then there. And now we'll hear one wonderful song to set us on our way. And see you again soon. Well, this year in Jerusalem. And you can dance, okay?
So, vielen Dank hier.
So thank you so much to Keha team and Beersheba. Have a wonderful evening and see you again soon. Take care and bye-bye.
הגיע הזמן להתעורר, לעזוב הכל, להתגבר, לשוב הביתה, לא לחפש מקום אחר. הגיע הזמן להשתנות, גם אם פספסנו תחנות, אפשר לרדת, יש רכבת, חזרה לשכונות. הכל אפשר רק אם נרצה, המחפש תמיד מוצא, גם אם הוא נמצא שם הרחק בקצה. דלתות שמיים לא ננעלו, כשהבן קורא הצילו, אבא שבשמיים